Hello everyone. Today we're going to go over how to do up a crusade list, how to form a crusade army and launch your own crusade. And for today we're going to do up a Alpha Legion splinter cell. We're going to briefly go over the rules of crusade and then actually show you the practical how you go about actually creating a crusade list and getting the GW rules and format to make a little bit more sense and make it a little bit easier for you if you are interested in launching your own crusade and doing your own crusade games. And let's get started, shall we? The start of the crusade rules are found on page 306 and 307 of the main rulebook. Let's just briefly go over this. The first thing you have to do is pick a crusade faction. Imperium, Chaos, Eldari, Tyranids, Orcs, Necrons, Tau. Imperium, that means, yes, your crusade list can have examples of Space Marines and Imperial Guard and Knights. Chaos can have Chaos and then Chaos Demons. They can also have Chaos Knights. You add them all into a crusade faction. So they can all go into your crusade force. Now, they are still going to have to go into separate detachments that you're going to have to pay for in order to play the game, but that shouldn't be anything new. It's just basically a good way of just starting out what kind of crusade are you launching. Now, the next thing we have is the order of battle. Your order of battle is a list of all the units in your crusade. Now, you might not be playing with all the units in your crusade all at once. You might only be playing with half of them at any time, or a quarter of them. Order of battle, you add units in, and their point cost is basically their power level. So, early on, you're only playing 25 power level. Later on, you might be playing 50 to 100 to 200. It's up to you. It kind of goes from there. But basically, this is your roster. This is what you go to pick from to play a crusade game. You've already paid the points, crusade points for them, so here you have them, and now you can bring them in and play them as need be. Now, on this page, we have the order of battle. It just shows that all the units that are part of your crusade force. Now, here's the thing. You can add or remove units from your order of battle at any time. But once they're gone, they're gone. So, one of the big complaints I've seen about Crusade is I don't want to do a ton of bookkeeping for 100 different infantry guard squads. Well, you don't really have to. If they get wiped out, just drop them from the order of battle and add another 3.1. You're just never going to really level them up. And instead, focus your time leveling up, say, vehicles or characters or other units that you do care about, and just leave your cannon fodder as cannon fodder. I do that personally. Just saves on bookkeeping. I like bookkeeping, but some people don't, and sometimes there are limits. I mean, let's face it. Your average infantry guard squad does not typically make it through a game, so I don't really feel the need to test for them and do a whole bunch of paperwork to see if they live or die. I just keep replacing them and use them as, give them a generic name like Alpha Squad, Bravo Squad, and so forth. Or in today's things, I just give them a different name of Disciples of Decimus or whatever, for whatever cult unit they are a part of. So basically, each unit has a crusade card. That means they're in the order of battle. Units cannot be changed once added to your order of battle. So, for example, you have 10 Space Marines, and you equipped them with a missile launcher and a flamethrower. You can't, in the next games, drop the flamethrower and throw in a plasma gun, or drop the missile launcher and throw a las cannon, or any. What you have put down in your initial crusade thing is what you get, and that's the way it is, and that's the way it stays. Now, here's the important thing. Supply limit. You start the game or a crusade at 50 supply. Each supply point is equal to 1 power level, so 1 for 1. So basically you're starting at 50 power level. Now, this is what the book says. If you sit down with your friends and you decide, we really want to get into Crusade, but I want to start off at a little higher level, at like 100 power level right off the bat for our supply limit, go ahead and feel free to do so. It's up to you. Now, the other important thing is they talk about battle tally, which just the number of battles you have played using the Crusade Force, and then requisition points. You start at 5 requisition points, and you can use them as needed. However, you can never gain more than 5 requisition points. Requisition points really matter when it comes to playing Crusade, and we're going to go over why here in just a second when we go over requisition points. So in true GW order and layout, it's 8 pages later before you get to actually what the requisition points do. And let's go over briefly what they do for each one. The very first one is increase your supply limit. Remember, we're starting at 50. You spend 1 requisition point, your supply limit increases by 5. That means you can add 5 more power level. And that is very important. By the way, you gain a requisition point with every game you play, and certain Crusade games add bonus requisition points. So you can never have more than 5, but to be honest, it's going to be pretty rare that you're holding on to 5 to begin with. And a big one you're going to be spending them on is just increasing your supply limit, which increases the number of units you can pretty much put into your order of battle. Now, another one is fresh recruits, 1 requisition point. Say instead of taking that 10-man unit, I didn't quite have the power level points for it, so I put in a 5-man Marine unit, and now I want it to be a 10-man Marine. You're going to, in order to change them, you're going to have to spend that requisition point to increase them, especially if they already have gained a battle honor. Another requisition point is for rearm and resupply. Remember that 10-man unit with the missile launcher and the flamethrower? Well, say you wanted to change it to a las cannon and a plasma gun later on in the Crusade because you're fighting a lot of vehicles and the like. Well, it's going to cost you 1 requisition point, and you can then change it without, dropping the whole unit and re-putting them in. And there you go. Then you have another important one, repair and recuperate. Yes, units can go out of action and gain battle scars and damage. So, if that happens, you're stuck with the results. Unless you have a requisition point for repair and recuperate, in which case it gets rid of those nasty scars and wounds. So, very important one to have. Some people I know like to keep one of their initial requisition points back just in case they need it. As you'll see I don't, but I understand why people do it. Now, the next one we have is psychic meditations. Now, if you haven't picked up on it already, whatever you pick into your Crusade list and put on your Crusade card, that is it. That means you choose your psychic powers when you add the psyker to the unit. You cannot change his powers between games. It is what it is. You know your psychic powers, and that's it. However, say you decided I really shouldn't have picked that 1 psychic power, I want to change it. 1 requisition point allows you to do that. Now, another one, specialist reinforcements, allows you to take upgraded units for free and just add certain stratagems to it. Very important. Again, only 1 requisition point. And then we have 2 of the other very valuable ones. And we're going to start with the Warlord trait. Your characters do not start with a Warlord trait that you're creating. You are going to have to pay a requisition point for your Warlord or for a character to have a Warlord trait. Now, that being said, there's one little area where I found a lot of people overlook. If you have 4 characters and they all have paid the requisition point to have a Warlord trait, yes, and they're all 4 on the field at the same time, yes, all 4 Warlord traits are active. You paid for it, you get to use it. So when you're starting off creating your list, it's very important to probably use some of your requisition points to start throwing Warlord traits on your characters right off the bat. Now, a Warlord trait is an upgrade, so it will add a Crusade point. Now, crusade points work as follows. The more experienced you are, the more battle honors you get, the more crusade points you have. When you play another crusade force, you take your crusade points compared to theirs, and whatever the difference is, whoever has less gets half the remainder. So let's put this in English simple terms, not GWEs. I'm playing a game against, say Sean. Sean has 8 crusade points. I have 4. I would then, the difference between us is 4, so I would gain 2 command points to use in the game. Say someone else was playing a match and they had 6 crusade points and someone only had 1. The difference is 5, or they had 2. The difference is 4. They would gain 2 command points to use. So it's just use the difference in crusade points. Half the difference goes to command points to whoever is not as experienced. And it works like that. So warlord trait, very important. You can also add inspiring leader as your warlord trait if you want, rather than use the ones out of your books. And then we also have another one that people like to take, relics. You can take a relic right off the bat and give it to your character, but it costs a requisition point. So again, that would also increase your crusade points for that unit. So again, you start with 5. You can never have more than 5, and you can use them as follows. Now we're going to go over quickly an actual example of using all these into creating an order of battle for a Alpha Legion Splinter Cell army that will hopefully be featured a few times here on this channel in future battle reports, where you can actually see them grow through crusade progression. But right now we're just going to start with, gathering them together and creating the army. All right, let's start off with creating our Alpha Legion Splinter Cell. The purpose of this army is going to be an Alpha Legion army, which has been tasked with creating insurrections and inspiring cults, demon worship, and basically just seeing about disrupting Imperial lines and Imperial stations and causing havoc through a huge area and disrupting the area. The whole cult is going to focus deeply on demon worship, demonic possession, and kind of build religious overtones with it, as well as using psychic powers and encouraging the current psychic awakening in order to inflict maximum harm on the Imperium and weaken the walls of reality. With that in mind, the first thing we did was we spent one of our 5 requisition points to use the Corruption of the Weak path and activate it from the Amidst the Ashes Crusade pack. I've done a video about this earlier, so feel free to go back and see that. So basically, that means this gives me access to a certain upgrade tree for psychers in this army, if I so choose to spend the points on it later. And that's the whole point of this. So one of our 5 requisition points is then spent. We then spent 5, we then are going to spend 2 other requisition points to increase our supply limit from 50 to 60 power level. And then we are going to go and take our first unit. The leader of our Splinter Cell, the one who's going to cause the demonic incursions and the like, we are talking about Decimus the Dreadlord. And he is a 5 power level Master of Possession. He knows the following psychic powers: Smite, Cursed Earth, which increases the saves of demons, and Incursion, which summons in demons. I have also spent my 4th requisition point to give him a Warlord trait Flames of Spite. So his basic weapon will now be able to deal mortal wounds on 6 and add additional damage. He is the leader of these insurrections throughout the sector, and here we go. One quick note, I am not and have never claimed to be a pro painter. I realize that my painting might not be up to your standards. I think it looks good enough for the tabletop. I'm happy with it, and let's just leave it at that. This is not, I've never claimed to be a pro painter. I'm not giving painting tutorials, and I never will give painting tutorials. I leave that to far, far more talented men, and like I said, I'm happy with these results, so let's just leave it at that then. All right, thank you. We spent 5 more power level to take a Dark Apostle. The Dark Apostle is going to be helping encourage these cults and worship of the Chaos Gods as they try to incite rebellion, insurrection, and insurgency across the Imperium. For his prayer, we gave him the Warp Sight Plea, and I have spent my final requisition point to give him a Warlord trait of Cult Leader from the Alpha Legion one from the Psychic Awakening / edition. You can also find those Warlord traits for the Alpha Legion in the new Warzone Caradon Book of Fire. And here he is. This is Torox the Traveler. And with him, we have 10 of our 60 power levels spent. Next up, we have Squad Naga. It is for 8 power level. It is a 10-man Chaos Space Marine unit. I have given the Aspiring Champion a Power Axe and Plasma Pistol. I've also equipped the squad with 1 plasma gun and 1 missile launcher, and the rest have bolters. They are the backbone who are kind of providing the muscle for Decimus the Dreadlord and Tarvax the Traveler as they go about inspiring insurgency and chaos and demon worship throughout the Imperium. Next up, we have, for 6 power level, a 20-man cultist squad known as the Disciples of Decimus. As you can see, they are just 20 cultists with autoguns with 2 heavy stubbers. You'll notice that the cult leader is a little different. I did a video earlier about how to upgrade a cult leader, and I do plan on eventually doing a certain upgrade with this unit once it gets enough to be blooded. And there's a reason I chose it, and if you're interested, just go back and look at that video and you'll understand why this guy is modeled the way he is and why he is with this unit. Long story short, it has to do with the Psychic Awakening and my playing off of that. And that's 6 more power level, and we are all out of requisition points at this point. Next up, for another 6 power level, we have 20 more cultists forming up a unit known as the Called of Karnak. And they are just a 20-man cultist unit with hand-to-hand weapons with 2 flamethrowers amongst them. That the Alpha Legion has, and Decimus the Dreadlord and Tarvax the Traveler have managed to raise up in insurrection against the Imperium. Next up in our order of battle, we have spent 4 power level to take Karnak, the Greater Possessed. This is a Alpha Legion Marine who summoned in all sorts of powers from the Dark Gods, has not quite reached apotheosis, but as you can see, is now a Greater Possessed and a source of strength for the demonic around him, and has risen to become something of a power amongst this insurgency, creating warband. Thus, that's why you have the Cult of Karnak, the close combat cultist squad that worship and follow him. And here's this unit. Then we have, for 5 power level, Karnax Reavers, a 5-man possessed squad of just chaos-possessed Marines who are, again, disciples of Karnak and are frequently seen raving and raiding with him. So there's another 5 points, which, there we go. Then at a whopping 12 power level, we have the Wrath of Tiamat Chaos Obliterator cult. They are the heavy supports. They're going to be doing most of the heavy lifting until Chaos gets its new codex. Again, they are already mutated and possessed to kind of keep with the theme of the army list, and easily able to infiltrate and the like to go right along with it to create insurgencies and cause problems for the Imperium as they make their way through the galaxy. Then at 2 power level, we have the Chaos Spawn Hound of Decimus. Yes, I am aware this is not a Spawn model. However, it is a very cool Age of Sigmar model, and I enjoyed building and painting it. And Chaos Spawn are supposed to be scary. And the group I play with, yes, I know it's on the wrong size base, but among our gaming group, my group is okay with me using this to represent the fearsome Spawn. The only time it's caused a problem was when someone took a look at it, prioritized it as a target because it looked scary, and was surprised when it just disappeared in a quick poof. But other than that, it is just a Chaos Spawn model, and I went with something that looked cooler and was, a little bit more intimidating and more visually appealing to what a Chaos Spawn should be. And there you have it. This is a Spawn that basically acts as a hound to Decimus, the Dreadlord. And finally in our list, at 7 power level and eating up the last of our 60 power level points and all our requisition points, is the Venom Crawler. Did this model, I'm not going to lie, this model was done up a bit as a showcase, maybe not so much for the painting, but for the conversion work. As you can see, it is a smaller demon engine that feeds off death and despair, and I really went with the spider theme. That's why it has all the chains. Instead of spider webs, it's using demonic chains to wrap up and feed off of its victims. And it has been subdued and suborned to the cult of Decimus, the Dreadlord, as he begins his insurrections throughout the Imperium. It is a weapon used as punishment and as an object of worship for the chaos cults that Decimus, the Dreadlord, is about to inspire. And there you have our Crusade list. Our Crusade list is done, our order of battle. Now all that remains is to start playing games with it. We'll be starting off at smaller level games, 25 power level, so we'll only be using 25 of the 60 power level available to us on our Crusade list. And we are going to start building up this army, and we will document that. We'll actually go through how you upgrade units and that in real time and try to make it as simple as possible and a little bit more accessible, because quite frankly, I'm not going to lie, the GW layout for the Crusade rules was so confusing that it took me about 3 or 4 times through to get it. And this is just a much simpler way. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, please hit like down below, and feel free to subscribe. Hopefully we'll have some battle reports here with this Alpha Legion Splinter Cell versus certain Imperial units, or even alien units, or different Xenos for you guys to enjoy in the near future. All right, thank you again.